start applying pressure to the outsides of the neck.
It's a light choke, no windpipe. There's technique.
These social media videos make sexual strangulation appear pleasurable and safe.
This isn't even an extreme or a fringe sexual practice anymore. This is a very standard one.
The effect of lightheadedness due to the drop in oxygen levels has been reported by some to increase erotic pleasure.
Do these individuals understand the risks and dangers of this process? Well, I'd say they don't understand.
But it's a trend medical professionals warn can cause stroke, death and brain injury.
And it's a very dangerous situation. There is a very large misconception that this can be operated as an act very safely, and it just is not a safe act at any time.
But despite the risks, a landmark Australian study from Melbourne University Law School and Queensland University, which surveyed 5,000 young people aged between 18 to 35, has found strangulation or choking during sex is now common.
This group of people that we're looking at now is a context where the people engaging in sexual strangulation are largely saying that they're consenting to the practice.
Researchers found women were more likely to have been strangled than men during sex, while 59% of men and 40% of women surveyed admitted having choked a sexual partner. About 3/4 of trans and gender-diverse people reported being choked or strangling a partner.
We found that on average, people had done this activity 5 times with 3 different people.
There is a perception that they can have a safe word. There is a perception that they can tap out effectively, that they can give a signal. And what we are hearing from our victims when they present in these settings is they were unable to indicate that in that situation.
Dr. Joanne Parkin says symptoms present in about half of patients who have experienced some form of non-fatal strangulation.
Absence of oxygen being supplied to the brain will affect things such as concentration, memory, decision making, and we're waiting for more research in that particular area. So we know that we can lose consciousness within seconds and we can cause death within minutes with compression of the neck.
While she examines victims who have been choked during a sexual assault, she warns the health risks are just as high in consensual settings.
In a relaxed setting where you think that you're in a consensual environment and you're enjoying a sexual outcome, it is also never, ever safe.
You know, young women have talked about that they have felt like they're genuinely being murdered, like they're really, really uncomfortable and feeling very, very unsafe.
Marie Crabb is an educator who has spent 15 years interviewing young people around the country about pornography and its impact on them.
About 3 years ago, I started to hear much more frequently that strangulation was part of what was happening in young people's sexual lives. It had come up only marginally every now and then in the years before that.
She says consenting to sex is increasingly seen as also consenting to choking.
We've spoken to some straight young men about their experiences of strangulation. Some of them talk about not really being into it, there being an expectation, sometimes being asked by their partners to do it. But I think also it can be really difficult for young men to reject that as a sexual practice when it's become normalised.
The study from Melbourne and Queensland universities found pornography is the most common way the young people found out about strangulation. Then movies, friends, social media, and current or potential partners.
So as porn influences, it has become more accessible and then influences popular culture, we've seen a building of the prevalence of these depictions of sexual strangulation in popular culture media, in social media, on pornography. It becomes part of kind of young people's sexual worlds.
If someone says they're not interested in doing that in a sexual context, now they're labelled as boring or vanilla.
25-year-old Susie Dodds has had to tell several sexual partners she did not want to be choked.
I've had, a few men ask if they can choke me and, you know, a couple of them kind of like their hands kind of wandering up that way. But I know a lot of people have experienced much worse.
What was your reaction?
A bit panicked. You know, I kept it kind of internal, I would say. And that's good that they at least asked and didn't assume. It still kind of concerns me that this is so common.
Was pressure applied to your neck? Yes or no?
It's an issue that cuts across all socio-economic groups. Here in Sydney's Cabramatta, health workers are learning how to broach this sensitive subject with vulnerable clients.
We want to identify is as early as possible whether, because each of those symptoms are often mild concussion. It's called a mild brain injury. And if not managed well, like 3 or 4 major head injuries begin to cause secondary problems and further more moderate brain injuries.
Women's Health New South Wales CEO Danielle Crozier believes the health impacts of choking during sex are massively underreported, something she's hoping to change.
If you ask women, have they had an experience with strangulation, you'll get a positive response of about 45%. If you ask women, have you had any experience where you thought you could not breathe? And sadly, the statistics jump up to 92%.
We need to be having conversations as a society, but also in schools and in homes. Parents need to be speaking with their children about this practice. We need to be thinking more critically about it. It's going to be something that continues unless we're having those conversations.
You're choking the air out of someone, you know, they're not able to breathe properly.
To raise awareness about the risks of choking, Susie is involved in a campaign called Breathless, aimed at young people.
If you're going to do that, you do need to know the risks, and you need to know that there is no way you can really do it safely. If you're comfortable with that, I guess, you know, it's your life, but it is your life.